Good evening and a happy new year. This is the Reel McCoy. I'm Meffistoe, and always with me, my hetero life mate. Oh, my feelings. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, buddy.
And good evening to the chat. Good evening, Saf. Good evening, Biffer, or should I say Beta Fett? I like it. Like that name. Continue on. What is the Reel McCoy? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we talk about movies. We send you off to watch a movie. You watch it with us, and then we talk about it. And in the meantime, we insert a few segments just to have some light entertainment and brevity and levity. I'm sorry, not brevity. Brevity. Right. What shall we open up with the new year? Well, it's a very easy question to answer. It is When Harry Met Sally. Did you watch it this week? And how many times? And did you cry in the end?
I watched it once while I was on holiday, and then I actually watched it once this morning. And oddly enough, I forgot how much I really enjoyed this movie. It was a very, very pleasant surprise.
This movie came in, did a little reaction video. I know it's not much. I know it's not the best, but I was like riveted to the screen, and it was very hard to find moments where I was actually talking. Mm-hmm. And at the end, even though I've watched this at least dozens of times, it got to me. I don't know what it is. It got to me. Maybe I was just in that mood. I don't know what it is. It's literally, it got to that point where he says, when you realize you want to spend your life with someone for the rest of their life, you want it to start as soon as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. All right.
So, you sentimental old sot, you.
Yes, I'm a sentimental old sot. So before we dive into everything, just so you know, we've got a new lick of paint. You just saw the intro. I hope you saw the entire intro. We have got some new graphics. We've got some new shit lined up for you folks. Hopefully, we will get you to join us live. But before we start, everything, you'll see everything during the show. Please, if you can, follow me on Twitter if you want any suggestions. You want to talk to me, send me DMs. My DMs are open always. Or you can send me stuff on Instagram as well at Meffistoe79. Or you can email me at Meffistoe79 at gmail.com. We will have a designated Gmail account for the Reel McCoy. And also, we will, I'm surprising you, we will think of doing a dual stream and have a dedicated channel called the Reel McCoy Podcast on Twitch while we're doing this. It won't be partnered, of course, because we need to do the dual stream, but we will do a dual stream on Twitch. We haven't talked about it backstage, but we kind of talked about doing it in the past. It's not set up because I had so much work to do during the past couple of weeks, as you can obviously tell from the start. Let's just start with the first thing on our mind when we talk about When Harry Met Sally, and that is behind
Production take 2.
Behind the Screens is where All My Feelings takes over and tell us a little bit, not everything, but a little bit about behind the production in When Harry Met Sally.
Okay, first off, it's really funny that this film inherently was built off of Rob Reiner's relationship that failed, his failed marriage. When he talked to Nora Ephron about his failed marriage, they decided to actually write the story about friends who eventually ended up having sex, and how the story was originally written. They end up being just friends at the end, to be like the antithetical kind of concept to what Harry is emphatic about, how men and women just can't be friends.
Yeah. And that's okay. Continue on.
Yeah. What's really funny is that Billy Crystal was really not even supposed to be Harry at first. They really originally wanted to go for Tom Hanks.
Interesting.
Tom Hanks turned it down. Then they went to Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss turned it down. Then they went to Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton turned it down. Do you know why?
Batman.
Batman.
He was doing Batman at the time. Batman at the time.
It finally went to Crystal because Reiner had worked with him on The Princess Bride and Stand By Me.
Yeah. All right. Billy Crystal was on Stand By Me?
He was working with Reiner as one back in the EP stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would say, okay, Richard Dreyfuss, I get where he's coming from because he worked with him in Stand By Me. But okay.
Yeah.
So anything else?
Really, originally Nora Ephron, when she wrote the script, she based the friendship of Harry and Sally off of the friendship between Rob Reiner and Billy Crystal. In the film, you see how they would call each other when they're watching movies. Rob Reiner and Billy Crystal actually did that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
We'll touch upon just a part of the new stuff. We'll do less breaking down of every single moment, but we're going to touch upon super scenes so we can go wild on talking about not only this movies, this movies. What am I even saying? This movie.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about mostly this movie, but we're going to go on a tangent on anything else. So anything that comes to mind, we'll do more free form and just have fun with it. Okay. This is a part of our new year resolution. At least mine. Mine. All right.
Just a couple last couple of points. Originally, Sally Day was cast to play Sally.
Who is Sally Day?
An actress from the 80s. When she backed out, do you know who they wanted to cast next?
I wouldn't have any idea.
Molly Ringwald.
Ooh, a bit too young in 89 or 88, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
but they wanted to cast Molly Ringwald, but when she eventually had other obligations, then they cast Meg Ryan.
Interesting.
Yep.
I mean, Meg Ryan's romantic comedy career is well established and well known. When is the first movie she did where it's a real rom-com, you think? Is it Inner Space?
I think so.
Is it Inner Space? It's not really a rom-com because it's a lot more sci-fi. And she's not a whole lot in it. So I mean, there's parts of it, yeah. Joe Against the Volcano came in after this. Sleepless in Seattle came after
No,
this.
way
You
after
Got
this.
Mail was after
Way
this.
after this, yeah.
Way after this. So I was thinking the sort of the first real rom-com that she actually had was this. And it was well known for one particular scene, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of that scene,
yeah.
do you know who the woman who says "I'll have another" is?
You know what?
Well,
For
sorry,
a
I'll have what
very
she's
long
having.
time,
Yeah.
a very long time, I don't know why, I had it in my head that it was B. Arthur from the Golden Girls. By the way,
No.
yes, I know, and it's a great segue to what I want to discuss when you finish.
Yeah.
It's not B. Arthur.
B. Arthur. That was Rob Reiner's mother.
Oh, that's so perfect. Now, I don't know if you've noticed because I've seen that part many, many times this week and last week for research.
Sure.
Yeah, for research. There's a part of the shot of that scene where you see them. They're in the shot like this. So she's going off and he's just dead straight looking at her. In the back, you see that I'll have what she's having. Rob Reiner's mother, I guess. There's a certain point where she cracks up.
Yeah.
You can literally see her like, and then going like silent, but you can see teeth, and it made me laugh so hard. It made me laugh so hard. It's like, oh shit, the extras are like laughing their asses off.
Yeah. The last 2 points, just real quick.
No worries.
It was really funny. It had an $18 million budget, but gross box office overall was $93 million.
Yeah, it made
it was a ton of money. Hit. And oddly enough, it had almost no marketing. It was all by word of mouth. People telling that they need to see this. In fact, it was in limited theater showings for the first 2 or 3 weeks of its actual theatrical release, and it's only with the small amount of theaters it released. At the time, it was the second highest grossing in small theater release history. It made over $1 million in its first week in small theaters, which is huge.
That's huge
for a limited release.
Yeah,
it was second behind one film ever in history, Star Wars.
Interesting. Yeah, because it was always it was limited release because they didn't think a space opera would ever work.
Yeah.
Cut to Boba Fett in 2021, and you want to shoot your fucking head off. Whatever. That was fucking terrible. So I'm gonna circle back to what I just said.
Yep.
Starting off with, we want to appreciate and give thanks and say a prayer for a great actress that just passed away yesterday. Betty White, the all-time great, just 2 weeks off of 100
years old.
Just 2 weeks off of 100. It's a crying shame. I haven't even checked why she died. I don't really care what she died of. Long life, lots of entertainment, and even got to like, you can say that an actress touched like first generation, second generation, and third generation. So that means third generation, the grandkids. She even touched the fourth and maybe even fifth generation with people because she was in such an iconic figure, and they put her in a lot of stuff that was like for young people that a lot of young people didn't even know didn't even know Golden Girls, which is the epitome of what she's known for. But she was known for like commercial stuff. She was known for, I mean, take out the vaudeville days, which was her earlier work. Like all the different movies that she had after Golden Girls and different parts in different TV shows. Just lots of entertainment for people that were 70 years her younger. Like, it's insane. The length that she went through. It's like I would say she's like a female Bob Hope, but not really.
I would say, if anything, she's more like a female George Burns.
Oh, people don't know who George Burns is. People
Well,
don't know
not,
who Bob
not
Hope
anymore.
is.
Not
Yeah,
anymore.
not anymore.
But,
But yeah, I would
when
say,
George
yeah.
Burns died, it was a big deal.
Oh, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old, and I know who George Burns is. So, all right, diving in to When Harry Met Sally. Finally, after 20 minutes. No, I'm just joking. Like I said, free form. We're gonna jump through to actually two things. One that was there. It basically covers a lot of the first scene where they basically meet up in Chicago. They drive to New York, and this is one of the stops along the way. And a lot of the movie is the conversations between between Harry and Sally. A lot of the dynamics of their friendship is pronounced in these moments in the film where they just talk, and it's very like fast paced dialogue. Now, one of the things here is they dive into the fact that they're having a long drive and they have to talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry is very open but a very dark person,
Yes.
and Sally is very not really closed minded but very she's a prude. Basically, she's a prude, and she's a very light person, not really a dark person.
Yeah, there is from the beginning you get the juxtaposition between the cynical pessimist that Harry is to the almost naive but ever optimistic Sally at this point when they first meet.
Yep.
Then every single conversation that they have, you get basically just character development throughout the film. That's why I think this movie works so well, is by the end they are fully fleshed out characters. You know their flaws, you know who they are as a person, and you
Yep.
know why these two actually end up together. Although I have issues with the fact that they have that basically false narrative that men and women can't have platonic friendships. I don't like that.
Oh,
But
I'm so deep into that theory, you have no idea. We'll get to that in a minute. I just want to touch about something, and it's very important. And I said it in my reaction video. This scene with the actress that sets up who Sally is
Mhm.
to a T. So she orders something, but she orders something very, very, very specific, almost Karen-like specific, I would say.
Yes,
She is
definitely, most definitely.
she is the absolute Karen when she orders her meal. Now, where does it come from? It is actually Nora Ephron herself,
Yep.
portrayed by Meg Ryan.
Yep.
That specific thing that she does, Rob, they had a little like pre-production talk in a restaurant where they basically developed the movie, and she orders the same way Sally orders in the movie in everything, and Rob Reiner was like, you have to put that in the movie because it's so specific, and it tells the other person that is with you a lot about who you are and what makes you tick, basically. And it's I don't think it's been ever done quite like this in a movie ever. like ever before and ever since. Nobody
Yeah.
was that specific with that particular set of qualities, I would say.
Mhm.
And
Well, I
yeah,
would
it's
say
very interesting that like it's Nora Ephron as she was in 88, let's say.
yeah. What's also really funny about that is we have that juxtaposition between their inherent natures and also just the small little foibles about them, and how even that they are juxtaposed. Because with how Sally, again with Nora Ephron, but how persnickety she is compared to how the almost laissez-faire attitude that Harry has, even though
Yeah,
he's the more pessimistic, cynical sort.
I totally agree. So we'll get to what I wanted to touch upon again. Again, it's just setting up a lot of things that is a motif in the entire movie. It's this conversation. He says something, she thinks it's a come on. He thinks it's not a come on. Maybe it's a come on. I don't know what it is. And it sets up the conversation where Harry basically pulls out his manifesto, and it's his manifesto from this point of the movie until the absolute end, including
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
It's the theory where men can't be friends with women that they find sexually attractive because the sex thing is always in the way. Now, I'm a true believer in that theory. Trust me, I am a true believer in that theory, and you cannot shake my foundation when we actually discuss it, because it's very complicated. It's not cut like it's not okay. It's this way, and there's no middle ground. There is a middle ground, but it's very subtle. And you
Okay.
said it's not.
No, I really don't believe that.
You
I have
really
a lot
don't.
of female friends that are very attractive, and I'm perfectly fine with them being my friends. Never
It
have even thought of them that way.
Now, there's a caveat, because after that particular conversation, they had the conversation in the airport where he
Yeah.
does say, "Oh, I have an amendment. If the two people in the friendship have their own relationship, their own committed relationship, then they can be
Can
friends
be
because there's
friends.
no sexual tension."
Okay. Yeah,
Like I said,
I
I'm
don't
a
know.
true believer in that theory. It's
No, it's
very,
fine.
very hard because well, the whole point of the movie is because they're not in a marriage, she's not in a marriage, he's not in a marriage. They are dating casually, but every time there's a point where the other one has to be pulled away from the friendship time,
Mhm.
there's always that look. Oh, you have a date. Oh, okay. They have that look, and that look, I, I know Billy Crystal is not a great actor, but Meg Ryan is.
Yeah.
And when he says he's got a date, she can see it in her eyes, but you can also see it in Billy's eyes when they have that after the pecan pie conversation where he wants her to come, like, go to a movie with him platonically, go to a movie with him. And she's like, "Well, I've got a date," and he's like, "Oh, okay," like that.
Yeah.
So
What one thing that I was gonna say about that though, when he makes that come on, he just says, "Oh, you're a very, you're beautiful," and that way, she immediately says, "What is that a come on?" Because in her mind too, she actually also believes his theory. She just actually doesn't vocalize her opinion that she agrees with him. Almost as
yeah,
though like she doesn't want to give him the satisfaction of just recognizing the fact that she believes in what he's saying.
yeah,
Because he even
like I
he even tells her like, "Is there any way that a man can say that to a female friend and it not be a come on?"
Exactly. Which sets up the whole theory where men and women can't be friends because there's always that sexual tension in the air,
Yeah.
which either hurts his feelings or her feelings, depending on where it comes from.
Hmm.
But it kind of the only problem with the theory, it kind of sets apart the woman in that aspect where you don't really consider what the woman wants in that aspect, only what the men want,
True.
because it's the men's side who is always the more
The
aggressive.
aggressor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly. And this was written by Nora Ephron, a woman. She was very insightful. All right, I want to show just a snippet because December 27th was the day that Carrie Fisher died 5 years ago. So we love you and cherish you, oh Princess of Leia.
You mean Princess Leia? She's the princess of what?
Leia. Yes, she's Princess of Leia. Shut up.
mean.
Yeah. Also, by the way, Boba Fett is still in the Sarlacc pit, dying slowly. Okay.
Yes,
Just so
he's
we're
slowly
clear.
being digested over.
He's still slowly being
years.
digested. So, all right. I just want to touch upon this because for me, I've seen this, like I said, like not hundreds of times, a few dozen times. This always reminds me of, you know what? Sex in the City.
Yeah, very much so. This is like
reminds me
the
of Sex and the
prototype
City a
of it.
lot.
Yeah.
It's 30-year-old single women in New York. I think the third, like not Meg Ryan, not Carrie Fisher, the third actress. I think she's married at this point.
She is
married at this point, right?
I believe she is. Either that or she's in a very committed relationship. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see her partner later on. Where they play like the charades. It's in her house.
Yeah.
And Carrie Fisher, when she hears about Meg Ryan's breakup, she puts out the Rolodex because Rolodex in the 80s is just, it was so good. It was just so good. It's just a reminder of how things used to work.
Yeah. One thing I really hated about that entire talk, which I get where Nora Ephron is coming from when she wrote it, because that is sort of something that is very stereotypical, and it's very something that is kind of pushed on women, where the urgency to get married, to find someone, get married, and then just settle down. That's it. That's what you do. But what's really funny is that urgency was shown in the conversation, like how inherently that leads to
this
divorce.
Conversation.
Yes, and marriages that don't last, because every single one of the people that they're talking about, like, oh yeah, well they got married, oh well they got divorced. It's like, oh well, how long has they been married? 6 years, and then the other, like I believe is Carrie Fisher's character, just sort of
Carrie
goes,
Fisher's character is the consonant lover. She's the other woman until a certain point.
Yes.
Where she cannot fathom the fact that the guy she's with is never going to leave his wife.
Yeah.
She's deluding herself up until the point where they meet Jess, and from there it just turns into something else, right?
Yeah.
But the conversation here, and subsequently the talk of Harry and Sally, is at this point Harry is so broken from the divorce.
Yeah.
He genuinely he's so broken. He doesn't see Sally as a sexual being. And he said, well, I'm not attracted to you. We can be friends. He basically, that's what he said. And she doesn't really respond. I don't know if you notice it. She doesn't really respond. He does say to her, look, you're the first woman who is attractive I'm not like sexually into. And she was like, good.
Okay.
There's no reaction.
There's one line that Billy Crystal has when he's talking to his friend at I believe it's at the Giants game. Yeah. When he's telling his friend about how his wife is leaving him and how like the movers even showed up to take her stuff out.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Where his friend
the wife knew way before she told him.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And when he opened the door, there was a guy named Mr. Zero, and Mr. Zero knew before he did.
Yeah. The one line that Billy Crystal's friend says Harry's friend, whatever, in that he says, well, there's always something. Billy Crystal's line as a retort is by far, it made me laugh out loud. He goes, oh yeah, well that something is fucking my wife.
Yeah. I mean, Billy Crystal, in his heart, he's a comedian,
Median.
and he's doing something like, I'm going to call it a Robin Williams part, which is a dramatic part that
Yeah.
interjects like droplets of uh of laughter and levity, and like, to, as you said, a laugh out loud moment in a not so laugh out loud situation.
Context. Yeah.
And there's a few moments in this, and it's not only the Billy Crystal, it's also the guy who's playing opposite of Billy Crystal. I think his name is Kirby, something, Jess, the guy who plays Jess, when they're in the baseball pen, and
Oh
Billy
yeah.
says, she was so hot. She even meowed, and the guy's like, he stops, like, you made a woman meow?
Meow.
That's so, it brings so much like comedic writing and timing to do that, and it makes it so much fun. And it's basically just two guys sharing sex stories over a day out in the bullpen. It's so fucking good. It's just so fucking good. I want to touch upon this because we did mention it, and then we'll head back to our first segment of the night. The split screen talking, and it also, when after they have sex, it's not only split screen, it's also split screen on the sides, but in the middle you have a non-split screen couple. So the couple are together in the shot, and the two couples, the couple who are basically apart, are on the sides, right?
Yep.
Sorry if I bored you
No, it's
on
all right.
in cinematography.
No, that's fine. No, that's a good point.
Cinematically, I love this split screen
shot.
shot where they basically watch the same thing, or when it turns around, they both on the phone.
Yep.
And Billy Crystal does the most Jewish thing. Oh, I'm just gonna sit here and moan on the side. That. Oh, dude, that's so Jewish.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's American, Chilean, or Spanish or whatever. It's so Jewish. Unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the
Did,
talk. Also, the talk about the movie. It comes up
Casablanca.
several different times,
Many
because
times. Yeah.
it started in that car ride to New York, where she said something, and later on, because of life experiences, maturity or something like that, because they were 21 when they left for New York, but they're 31.
They were just leaving,
here.
leaving from college, essentially.
A decade later, they have a different perspective on the same movie, which we talked about this endlessly. We changed our perspective about movies several times in our lives because we watched the same movie when we were 8, when we were 12, when we were 27, and when now, well, you're 36 and I'm 42 or something, right? Because my take on this movie really changed. I really think it's a much more sophisticated, funny, romantic comedy. I used to not like the bit where they split up. It is absolutely necessary that would happen.
Most definitely.
It's so necessary to the movie that it would happen, not because it's a paint by numbers rom-com where you have to, they fall in love, it breaks up, and at the end of the movie it comes back together, which it is, but it's
not formulaic. It feels natural.
It feels very natural in this movie. Very natural. All right.
One thing I was going to just say real quick about really great lines, because we're going to move on from this point, is there was a conversation that that Sally and Harry were having. I believe it was in a museum in that scene where they were talking about how Harry can't sleep, but Sally said, "Yeah, I went to bed at 7:30 last night. I haven't done that since I was 8 years old." And Billy Crystal's, like, Harry's line as a retort again is one of those, just like, it's really snappy, but it's hilarious. He goes, "Yeah, well, that's the great thing about depression. You get lots of sleep."
Yeah, it's when they talk. And oh, by the way, it's when they talk and he throws the cards to the bowl.
Yeah.
You don't see him talk. You just hear their conversation.
Mhm.
And the only thing on my mind is like, what a fucking awesome New York apartment.
Apartment. Like, how much money did he have to spend? Like, what
Yeah.
did I know? He's a political consultant or something. That's what he does for a living. But he must make an absolute fortune to afford that apartment.
And he's only 31. I mean, he looks 47, but he's
Yeah,
31.
31. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Our first segment of the night, which finally, after almost 6 months, even more, actually has a name. It is Missing Marquee. What is Missing Marquee? Very simple. We have 10 posters without any text on them, and you out there, the chat, and of course, all my feelings. And if we had a guest, the guest would have guessed it. He's gonna guess which movie this is. Simple and to the point. Our first of 2022.
Oh no.
Really?
I think you got me stumped off the jump.
All right, chat. Let's go. We've got
That's
20
Nicolas
seconds.
It's
Beat him.
obviously Nicolas Cage, but
It is obviously Nicolas Cage. Wow, I didn't think you would be stumped on this one.
no, I do. Is that the film where he plays two versions of himself?
Yes, it is. We've got the chat coming in strong. It is
Adaptation.
adaptation.
Is that Capote?
Capote.
Oh,
Oh,
Christine.
It is Christine. All right. This one,
God. Which one is it? Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and the Furious?
All right. Yes. We've got 9 of them.
I was going to say, I
It's
think
just-
that's Fast. Fast 5? Fast.
No, it is not Fast 5. No.
Too Fast, Too Furious?
Nope.
The Fast and the Furious?
The Fast and the Furious. It is
So that was
3.
Was that
It is
4?
3. No, it's
No.
4.
Because
Sorry.
3 was Tokyo Drift.
3 was
I
Tokyo
hate that I
Drift.
know
4.
that. Gangs of New York. Great
Gangs
movie.
of New York.
Very underrated.
Correct.
Is that just Jack Reacher?
That is Jack Reacher.
Fuck, I just saw this movie.
This movie was a total cash grab. Total cash grab.
It's not When a Stranger Calls.
No, it's not When a Stranger Calls.
I cannot remember the name of it. I
Premise
know
of this
that the
movie is
entire
so goddamn
premise.
simple. It's so goddamn simple, and it's stupid.
He beats they go to his house.
They go to
right?
his house, yes.
And then eventually they're like, oh, well, you were going to cheat on your wife, so we're going to torture you to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they end up killing him in the end.
I think so. I haven't. To be honest, I've seen half of this movie, and I know
I cannot remember the name of it though. No, it wasn't a good film. I remember that.
It seems like chat doesn't know. It is Knock Knock.
Knock Knock. Okay.
Home Alone featuring Keanu. Yes.
Sideways. Oh God, I love that movie.
This poster is so good. By the way,
it's perfect.
This poster is original. There's no lettering. There's no text to it. There's no nothing. There is another one that has the text. This one was a promotional one. It just was there, green with bottle, and that's it. It's
a great film.
That is such good. All right, go.
Ooh.
Whoops. Sorry. Oh, where did it go? God damn it.
Is that the Treasure of Sierra Madre?
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
True
Last one.
Romance,
True Romance, which
which we'll be covering
come.
soon.
We will be covering that
God, that's a good movie.
very soon. Very soon. We have a little something to share with you at the end of the podcast as well concerning the month of January.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's continue on. Let's trudge on because we are heading towards the scene of the movie.
Katz's Deli.
Now, this was shot at Katz's Deli, the original and the only. It was busy at the time, but I think everyone who was there got paid. So it's all extras, but they did have to buy food. There was something with that restaurant that there was a lot of concessions that they had to make because the owner was a very old Jewish man who was very, 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 very concerned with his profits. And I'm not just saying that, I mean it, because he did not want any film crew there. And there were a lot of compromises in this one.
Yet now they have the sign hanging outside of Katz's Deli
that says
in commemoration of this. It's like that's,
and I think the table itself has a plaque on it
too. Yeah, it has
a
black card on it. Yeah.
So it just made the restaurant even more profitable, even though they had to concede. I think it was one day of shooting. I'm not sure. I think it's just one day of shooting, and they shot this in a few hours, and they had to. They literally set up everything while they were opening up and shot it and left.
What I find interesting too is around there, you can't see what Katz is really famous for. They're giant pastrami sandwiches.
Oh, Billy Crystal is having a massive pastrami sandwich while there.
But it's not the one that they typically serve. The one that they serve is literally
it's this thick.
Oh, yeah. Theirs it's bigger. Like, it's crazy.
Dude, I've seen it. I saw it on Man vs. Food.
Yeah.
He was there. And it's massive. And it's just 2 pieces of toast and mustard and pastrami from now till oblivion.
It's a great sandwich too. Highly recommend it.
When I get to New York next, because New York is a dead
zone.
No,
see that
right now. Look at how much.
That's like a small one. That's a small.
Look how much pastrami is in that fucking sandwich.
But that's a small sandwich.
So I wanted to show, because we did mention it. I wanted to show the part where you can. It's really hard to catch it. Like, if I play it, then you can see it. But please. Oh, maybe this. Can I punch into this? No, I can't.
That's her right there.
Yeah, that's
Rob Reiner's mom.
That's Rob Reiner's mom. And this is the point where they're actually still looking, but she cracks the biggest smile. Like I said, the biggest smile, and it's so funny because when you're watching this for like the 10th time, you notice a lot of shit.
Yeah,
I didn't notice the fact that the audience or the extras slowly turn their heads. So they're shooting it from one vantage point, and then the other vantage point, and then this vantage point, and suddenly in the background, out of focus, you see people turn their heads very slowly to give you the impression that everyone in that place is looking at her right at this moment.
No.
Nobody's moving. If you notice, the 2 girls at the counter, they're pretending to read newspaper. They don't turn around. They keep looking at, and there's a shot of the owner dumbstruck like this. Looking, like, pretending to look at that scene.
And what's funny too about this scene is this also that this film has a lot of cases where the characters have real growth throughout the years. Because remember when they were first going into the diner, they were talking about Casablanca, and Billy Crystal's character was saying, well, you wouldn't leave somebody like that because the sex was great, right?
Yeah.
When Sally walks in, she goes, well, how do you know I haven't had great sex?
Yeah.
The people turn to look at her. She's embarrassed. She's shy. She's taken aback by it. Here, she's audibly faking an orgasm so everyone could hear it. How confident she's become as a person, and how she is now just growing and maturing as a person as well.
And I like the fact that it's like, oh, you never had great sex. Why? Because she tells him, well, my boyfriend's name is Sheldon.
Sheldon is like,
Sheldon,
no.
Sheldon is like your accountant. Yeah.
Sheldon's like your accountant. He's not the king of was it the king of In and Out?
No,
like
I don't even remember. But it was like Sheldon will do your taxes. Sheldon will take care of you for life.
What did Harry say?
Grind Sheldon. Something like that.
Why did you break up with Sheldon the Wonderschlong? Like, that's funny. Fuck you if you don't find that funny. That's funny.
It's fucking funny because it's funny. All right.
Moving on.
We'll move to the point where the whole movie kind of turns, because this is New Year's Eve. This is 1 year before the New Year's Eve where they profess love to each other, right?
Yes.
And at this point, you see them dance cheek to cheek. First, you see Billy, and he's like, he has that stare where it's no longer funny because I'm really attracted to this woman. Mm-hmm. When it turns, you see her stare like this, and she realizes she really likes Billy or Harry.
Harry, yeah.
And it turns back to Harry, and Harry is really, really into her, realizing something, but they still don't give in to ruining the friendship.
Mm-hmm. And this is right when they set each other friends. Well, they set up one another with their friends.
They set up the fact that, if next year you have no date, we're gonna come back here and be each other's date.
Oh no, I was thinking
after this.
No, with Jess and Harry's friend. Remember when they go on the double date?
That's basically the next scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the reason why they set each other up on those dates, because they're like, well, I'm going to set someone up with I think that you'll be perfect with, so I don't have that temptation anymore, and we can remain friends.
Yeah, and it's funny because they
and it backfires catastrophically.
Oh yeah. But before that, they have that little separate conversation. Oh, how do you feel about that? So typical stuff that you hear from friends before a blind date, because Harry knows Sally, but Jess doesn't know Sally, and Marie doesn't know.
Jess doesn't know Harry. Yeah.
No, Jess.
Okay,
no, Jess is that guy. That's Jess.
Oh, you mean the male Jess?
There's another Jess in this movie?
Jess is Carrie Fisher's character.
No, that's Marie.
Oh, I'm sorry. My notes are wrong. Never mind.
We are gathered here today to join Jess and Marie for holy matrimony.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Dude, me and names. Oh,
you got it right this time. Hey.
I got it right this time. Hail. New year, new Meffy. Oh, trust me, it will go away real fast.
Yeah, well, because Mike Judge made Futurama.
Yeah, of course.
Never gonna let that go.
There's that question where Harry says, well, she's got a great personality, and Jess is like, oh, wait. Oh. You say great personality, that means she's a dog, she's ugly. And Harry's like, oh, no, she's very pretty. It's like, but not beautiful.
Well, and also he poses the question too, well, why haven't you gone with her then?
Yeah. And I don't he body swerves it. So, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Body swerve is from something else. But he's like, he's diving the question. He's really diving the question. Great start to 2022. Fuck yeah, dude.
Thanks, TK.
So that's the boys. The girls are basically the same. The girls is like Marie's asking Sally why haven't you dated him? And Sally is also dodging that question as well.
Mhm.
Cause they just had that moment. They just had that moment in New Year's Eve where it feels good with this person. I want to be with this person, but I can't because I'm really good friends with him.
Yeah, and they're also, you can tell too that they're running out of reasons to say no anymore.
Yeah, and it basically sets up. You know what? We'll move on forward because Jess and Marie, when they leave the thing, they both like take Harry and Sally away from each other. And it's like, is it okay if I date the other guy?
The other person,
Like,
it's like, is that okay?
is that okay? It's like, is
yeah,
that
it's
okay
fine.
with you?
But they both tell each other like, hey, listen,
Yeah, just
they're going through a rough time right now. Just give it a week. Just give him that at least.
yeah, we don't want him to have another rejection, and it's not good. And
it was Jess who calls the. Was
Jess
it Marie
calls
or
the
was
cab.
it Jess?
No,
Jess calls the cab.
and Marie is like, "Oh,
like,
I'm in the
hey,
same way.
I'll
Let's
go with you."
Which sets up. Is it? They go to the So Harry and Sally go to the store because they have to buy them something for their new housewarming present. They encounter Helen, which is Harry's ex-wife, and Ira, the guy she's
Ira.
stooping. And it really gets Harry in a bind. Oh, plus, by the way, can you appreciate the old karaoke machine that everybody got in the late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah.
Before they called it a karaoke
machine. Yeah.
I thought you would appreciate that because you probably had that in your house at some point. Probably, maybe.
My parents did, yeah.
I didn't. I avoid that. I avoided that.
What I find funny too is that, like, you saw that also. We mentioned the character growth of Sally, but you see the character growth of Harry up until this point too, where he is becoming that his rough edges are being softened. They're being worn down. He's becoming a more generally a more happy person throughout his friendship with Sally. This makes him revert to who he was in a way.
Yeah, because
he taps back into that dark, pessimistic, cynical side of himself.
When they get to the focal point was the stupid wagon wheel coffee table, basically, and
the Buck Rogers wagon wheel.
Yeah,
I was just saying that to be nice.
Yeah, the fact that this thing exists. First of all, it's not a bad table, but
no, it's not bad.
It serves one point, by the way. For a fact, if you had this in your house, the middle part is a fucking ashtray.
Oh, 100%.
100%. That middle part is being an ashtray.
Yeah.
I'm talking about late 80s here. Everybody's still smoking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The fact that he doesn't start off with the wagon wheel thing, but the whole point is Marie doesn't want it in. Jess wants it in. So it's a point of contention. And he just had the vivid memory of his ex-wife coming in. And we know it was on bad terms because Mr. Zero knew before he did. Right?
Yeah.
And he says, well, he starts up with the plate, and he says, this is an $8 plate, but it will cost you $1,200 to argue which one it will go to in the end.
Yep.
And I don't want to dive into more personal things, but I know for a fact that it can go 12 rounds on stupid shit like that easily. And the only one who wins are the lawyers.
Yep. Oh,
I don't want to go into more personal stuff because I know you don't want to. but definitely no. But I like the fact that he sums it up with, "Oh, at the end you argue about this fucking Roy Rogers stupid wagon wheel coffee table."
Table.
And
And
he's
then
like,
Jess
Jess is like,
says, "I thought
"Hey,
you liked it." He
ho."
goes, "I was trying to be nice."
And the one that calms him down is actually Sally, because
Yeah.
she knows he's hurting.
Mhm.
And at the end, Jess is being the good husband, I would say, before he was a husband. It's like he's throwing it out. It's like,
He's taking it out, and he looks at him and
Say-
goes like, "Don't say a word."
yeah, say nothing. Because we've all been there, sadly.
Yep.
Next point of contention is actually the party, where they go to the party and they do the charades.
Charades.
And
Yeah.
Harry's there with a younger girl, and Sally's there with I think a man her age-ish.
Mhm.
And they keep talking to Jess and Marie separately about, I like this person, and I don't like her date or his date. It's like, oh, she's too young for him, and she says, he looks a bit suspicious, that sort of thing. That sort of they're talking about each other as if they were exes rather than
Yeah.
just friends.
Definitely.
It's sort of the whole balance of the friendship comes off at that point, and they become more, like I said, more of a exes thing than actual friends,
Definitely.
which is a bit weird. And then, of course, Joe gets married. Joe is Sally's
ex.
Longtime boyfriend, who didn't want to marry her. But he is getting married, so
Well, because they had that conversation where about the reason why Sally and Joe split was she was saying, well, I'm glad we don't have kids, so we can have sex on the kitchen floor and the kids won't come and bother us, or we can go out and fly out to Italy whenever we want. It was then I realized that we're never going to fly out to Italy, and we never had sex on a kitchen floor. So all the reasons for being together and everything and not having kids were just basically just bullshit.
And it starts off with her realizing her biological clock is ticking. As
in a way,
she sees a family outside, and it made her cry. And she confronted Joe, and Joe was like, I don't want to have any kids, and I don't want to get married. Which leads to this, where he does get married.
Yeah.
And it leaves her in a bind where she thinks, well, he just didn't want to marry me.
Yeah.
I'm the problem.
Yeah, it turns into what's wrong with me? Why didn't he want me?
Yeah. And it's something that I would guess any person, it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman, gets rejected for a specific thing, and then the other guy who did the rejecting does that same thing you were asking for, just not with you. It just puts you in sort of a
having almost like a tiny little existential crisis a little bit.
Yeah. I would think so. If you if you're an over analyzing person, which Sally is, she's not like a laissez-faire person like Harry, where I don't think that would bother Harry that much. As a person, if he was in the same situation as Sally, it wouldn't have bothered him, because like we said at the beginning, he's a very dark, cynical person. But he said it, well, I'm a dark and cynical because when death comes for me, I would be prepared and you wouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's like one of the first conversations. And yeah,
because he says, what he says is, whenever I have a new book, I always read the last page in case I die before I finish it.
Yeah. And the funny part is, just before this part where he comes over, he reads a book by Robert Ludlum in the middle. And then he before she calls, he turns it into the end and he reads the last page, which is Good night. Mrs. Meff is going to bed.
It is late and you have work.
It is very late and I have work tomorrow. So I've been scolded.
We're aware.
She had to put in one last dig.
Good night, Mom.
Oh, please don't let her hear you say that. She gets really annoyed when I say that to her. All right, so they have sex, and they call Justin Marie in the morning. And like I said, we have that split screen again. Let me put us there just for fun. We have that split screen where the couple is split down the middle, but they're still together.
Mhm.
And the couple that just had some sort of a crisis is split down the sides.
Yep.
You could have shot this in several different ways to separate the people, but they roughly did it like this, and it's so goddamn good. And after all these years, I can appreciate how good is literally showing us and not telling us what's happening here.
Mhm.
And the whole point is the regret that the friendship went sort of went to another level, but it shouldn't have gone to another level because they were not dating. Quiet desperation from all my feelings. All
No,
right.
no, I'm just listening.
Cool. Just so you know, my mother, who watches this podcast, kept just to affirm or disprove your theory that you talk too much in the podcast. She said that I hog the conversation so much, and I don't let our guests talk, especially if it's a woman. And I was like, "What?" And she was like, and I was like, all the guests have carte blanche to talk whenever they want to. And she's like, well, you don't understand, dear. You're Israeli, and Israelis really love to talk. People who are polite, people who are polite wait for you to stop talking, and then they start talking. If you don't stop talking, they will not interfere with your thing. And I was like, is that an Israeli thing, or I guess it doesn't matter. Like I said, we're free flowing here, going into deep dive into the podcast backstage. But I found it funny. So just so you know, my mother broke it down, and she said I'm
Okay.
talking 60% of the podcast. And if we're talking about me, let's go on to the next segment of the night, which is Cinema Deathmatch.
Cinema Deathmatch.
What is Cinema Deathmatch? Cinema Deathmatch is we're going to flickchart.com. We're putting two films in front of you, and we pick which one is the best one. If we don't have a clear winner, we fall to our secondary category, which is at the end of the day, Friday evening, Saturday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with your significant other. We have two films. Which one will we pop into the DVD or stream? So let's us begin. I'm going to shuffle it and break it up. Cinderella
Oh boy.
or Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Sir, you go first.
As much as you hate Disney movies, I have to go with Cinderella just because of its cultural impact. Attack of the Clones was arguably, I think, the better of the horrible abomination that were the prequels, but it's
More
still
on
a
that
bad
on
movie.
a video on this channel later on, by the way. To be concluded at the end of January of 2022.
Yes.
Right. Chat says Cinderella. Although it is Disney, and I don't really like Cinderella as a movie. I do like the story. I don't like that adaptation. It is the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boop adaptation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
It's
go
not
with
the Grimm's fairy tale one where the stepsisters actually mutilate themselves to try to put on the glass slipper, and
Oh yeah. I'm gonna go with Count Dooku over here. So the chat says Cinderella, so we're gonna go with Cinderella. Next up, Casablanca or
Mother.
The Shawshank Redemption. We are hitting it off top shelf. All right. So I'm going to go first. It's going to be Shawshank Redemption. By the way, I am going to do a full review of what I think are the 10 best movies of all time. Again, another video I'm working on, which I don't know when I'll get to it, but I will get to it at some point. I'm going to take out Star Wars out of that equation. So it's going to be tough to pick my top 10. It is Shawshank Redemption. Casablanca is a wonderful movie. Just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I love the messaging in it. I love the turmoil that Ingrid Bergman has in that movie. Again, it comes up in When Harry Met Sally, which is perfect. I'm still going to go with the Shawshank Redemption.
While I love Shawshank, do not get me wrong. This is just a very difficult one because I think Casablanca overall has more of an impact, has meant more to people over time, which I think, granted, look at the differential. There's over 52 years in between the two.
Yeah.
But also for one scene in Casablanca.
The last one?
No, the Le Morsier scene. Everyone in there singing Le Morsier are actual French refugees. This is taking place during World War II. They're singing about their homeland that they miss. The impact of that scene alone, that's the reason why I have to go with Casablanca on this one. Chet says Shawshank. I am not upset with that decision because Shawshank is still a great film.
Shawshank will get to Shawshank. Next, Army of Darkness. By the way, this poster without text is amazing. I have it. It will come up later on this year. And The Fast and the Furious. That's the first one. So which one are you going to pick?
Army of Darkness.
Army
all the
of
way.
Darkness.
That movie's... I love that movie.
Mulan or Braveheart? And we did touch upon the fact that
oddly
Braveheart
enough,
is not accurate historically.
No, Braveheart's not accurate. Neither is Mulan. Obviously not.
No.
Because Eddie Murphy is a dragon. Yeah, okay.
Well, Eddie Murphy.
And also, the story too was just awful. But I have to go with Braveheart. As factually inaccurate as it was, it's still a good film.
I agree. Plus, it's Disney.
Yeah.
Face Off or Problem Child 3 Junior in Love.
I have never seen that.
It is horrible. It's terrible. It's basically Dennis the Menace, but not calling him Dennis the Menace.
Well, I've seen I saw the first two Problem Children, I guess, to put them as a plural.
The first one, I think, is with Walter Matthau. I'm not sure if the other ones are like the same. Face Off or Inception. Now, this is where I'll go first. Although Inception is a wonderful film, is it Nolan? Right? Yep. It is a wonderful film. I personally don't like it at all. Don't like it at all. It's got fucking Leo in it, which is a big minus. I just don't like the premise. It's a bit convoluted to me. It's like Seven Circles of Hell or Seven Circles of Memory. Not for me. I'm going to go with the fast-paced, John Woo, slow motion, doves, all that crap. It's going to be Face Off.
For me, I will have to go Inception just because I love the premise of it. The premise of it is wildly fascinating.
We are split down the fucking middle here. We've got Face Off, Inception, still Face Off. I haven't seen Inception.
3 Face-Offs to 2 Inception, so it's going to go to
We'll
Face
go
Off.
Face Off. Right. 40-Year-Old Virgin or The Chronicles of Narnia. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is the first. Did they make more than 2?
Yeah, I think they just made 2 because it was a the
They were
Prince
supposed to make
Caspian.
Prince
second
Caspian
one?
was the second one, and I
And
don't
then
think
I think they stopped because
yeah, it
Caspian bombed.
was yeah. Um,
Go
you
ahead.
can go first.
Okay, I'll go. I have to go with the 40-year-old version. I think it was really one of the big breakout films, not only for Seth Rogen as an ancillary character, Paul Rudd as an ancillary character, but obviously the main character, and also
Steve
Judd
Carell.
Apatow. It really brought Judd Apatow into the forefront, which launched that series of films in the early 90s. Sorry, in the early to late aughts,
Early on.
that really brought him up to prominence, which was like, because he did this, then he did what? Knocked Up, then
He did a series of films, all with
he did a lot of films.
the cast that was in this one. So he did a couple with Seth Rogen. He did a couple with Paul Rudd. I think he did one with what's the black guy's name? The
I
main
can't
guy.
remember his name.
He's an actor. He's been in a few things, but I really don't
Yeah,
remember his
because he
name.
was really known for this and Weeds, the show Weeds, if you ever saw that.
Yeah, and he was also in the Mike Myers bomb, the Guru.
Oh God,
He was
the Love Guru.
He was the NHL player who was the only one who was black, and the Guru had to help him.
Yeah.
Again, convoluted. But Judd Apatow did this, and he did a lot of other movies that are sort of like,
which is funny because all of the
romantic comedies with the
a
same
little bit.
actors.
But also, if you look at the cast, it's the same recurring cast in a lot of them, and that cast was all from the shows that he directed or co-wrote back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s and then early aughts, because he started with Freaks
and Geeks and all that.
And then it was Undeclared was the other big one that he did.
Yeah. So we're going to go with 40-year-old virgin on this one. And that would be that.
That'd be it.
Ooh, the next couple is Psycho and Back to the Future original. Damn.
That's a rough one.
Maybe someday.
That's a rough one.
Maybe someday. All right. Let's wrap things up. So they do have sex. They do this. And it kind of blows up at the wedding, where Harry actually calls Sally a dog. Technically.
Like, are you actually calling me a dog? Yes.
Yes. I'm calling you a dog. And it kind of blows up in the kitchen, but when they go out, Jess says, well, if we...
And also to Harry and Sally, if we had found either of you even remotely attractive, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, and that's like the ultimate line. The ultimate line, because it harkens back to like a couple of scenes ago where they just did that little get together and things, because the whole year between the first party and the last party goes rather quickly. So they jump from, they have like jumps to the Helen part, and then the wagon wheel part, then the sex part and all that stuff. And it just goes super, super, super fast. It seems like they wanted to wrap things up really fast, or there was nothing to tell, because it seems like they're always apart. So Harry calls Sally on the phone, and she really doesn't want to answer him. She doesn't really want to talk to him, because when they finished the sex, he left quickly. Harkens back to when they were sitting on the plane, and Harry had the whole theory comes up where he says, well, when a man and a woman have sex, the man thinks about how much longer do I have to lay here until I have to like go, and like how much mandatory time do I have to spend here lying
before
here after we had sex before I have to go. And he said, well, for guys it's about 30 seconds, and for women is all night long. And the range between 30 seconds and all night long, this is where we have the problem between men and women, which kind of encapsulates one little aspect of the man-woman relationship to a T, in that one little aspect of a relationship, whether it's just dating or like boyfriend girlfriend. And of course, New Year's Eve comes up, and Harry gives himself kind of excuses why he should be alone. So he's, I can do my Christmas shopping. I have to do this. I can eat whatever I want. I can do this. I can do that. But then he watches a couple kissing, and he realizes that, no, you stupid idiot, you have to apologize and confess what you feel, because that is, let's say, the grown-up way of handling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Takes?
No. That's pretty much on the nose right there.
Okay.
One line I vehemently disagree with him though. While he's laying there watching Dick Clark's New Year's Eve, and he's sitting there going, "No, it's fine. Everything's fine. I don't need anything else. I got this. I have the best cookie in the universe, Malamars." Categorically false. Malamars are disgusting.
Oh, okay. One little bit before we wrap things up. With this point where he says he loves her, and she's like, "What do you want me to do with that information?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's not only saying he loves her, he's saying all those little things that a person that has like okay, let me start again. He actually accentuate all the little flaws that she has, that he looks past. He passes over those things that normally a person would, I don't know, dump her or leave her, or all the little category, all those little faults that she has, but he loves.
Mm-hmm.
And
What
I found it really I found it really endearing
mm-hmm.
and very true to life.
Most definitely. What the first thing that I thought of again while reviewing the film for the first time, I haven't seen this movie in many years until I watched it again recently for the first time again. While he's listing off all of those, the first thing that I thought of was Seinfeld. And this is the reason why Jerry breaks up with this woman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And it's not only that he looks past those issues, Meph, he loves her because of those issues, not despite them.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I wanted to
That's
go.
the big
Now,
differential there, and that's the real thing. That's why I think that you got kind of like, ow.
it was
my name, ow, my feelings.
Yes, exactly. No, I it's really hard to express myself when I talk about this, because it's really close to my heart. Now, I want to give you another point of reference, okay, for you and for you guys out in the chat. I hope you guys watched Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
There, Good Will Hunting. In Good Will Hunting, in the first couple of sessions, Will goes to Robin Williams' character, which I forgot. I think it's Sean. So Will goes to Sean, and Will does to Sean what he did to any other psychologist or psychiatrist. He breaks them down, and he brings them to tears. And Will finds the little crack to settle in, and then he digs in and he cracks the psychiatrist. Now he does that to Sean, where he goes to that little picture and he dissects what Sean is doing because of he dissects Sean's personality and what he's feeling through that picture, and then he finds that little crevice where he says it's his wife, where presses Sean's point, and then he keeps pressing it to try and crack Sean. And Sean does crack a little bit. The point I'm making is Sean explains to Will how the fact that and that comes up in another, like the other session, the second session, where he says, I loved it when my wife farts. I loved it when she did this. I loved it when she did that. And he has several different flaws that she had, but he loves her. Like I said despite of her flaws, but because she has flaws, he loves her nonetheless because it makes her her. And this is the same way Harry loves Sally. Harry loves Sally because she has a crease down her eyebrow when she is mad. He loves the way that she orders, how she dissects everything. He loves the fact that blah, 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 all those little things that a normal person would get rid of a girlfriend, like Jerry Seinfeld. He loves it about her. And that's why they come together. And at that point, I started to cry like a little girl by myself in the room with a camera on me. And of course, they had
as I said before, you sentimental old sot, you.
Yeah. And the fact that despite everything, they hug, they kiss, and then they go into a spiel about what is this song all about? Like
Old Lang Syne, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I never understood what this song was about.
And nobody knows. Like maybe if you're a devout Catholic, maybe you'd know, but oh my God. It is so weird. And they go into this whole spiel and I was like, oh, it's Billy Crystal taking over this movie again with his comedic effect or his comedic timing and just
also that shows their relationship immediately, like how it almost gives the audience the catharsis at the end there, where it's not only that the kiss really seals the fact that they're together and everything's okay, but how they immediately go back into their old pattern where they're openly like together, like dissecting or mocking something together as friends, or now in a relationship, which by the way, if you are in a relationship and you can't say your partner is your friend, then get out of that relationship because you should not be in it.
It's I said that to Mrs. Meff this week. I was like, I think when it comes to like a relationship, you can be friends with a woman. I just don't think you can do it platonically. But if you're friends with your significant, it doesn't even have to be a woman, with your significant other.
Yes.
If you're good friends and then it develops into a relationship, it could be a very long-term relationship.
Oh, most definitely.
Because I like your little quirks, or I can live with your little quirks that would drive a person insane. I can look past them and see the person behind those little quirks and really enjoy being with that person.
Yep.
And it just ends with them. Oh, so we didn't touch upon the fact that there's a few couples.
They have like the little tiny little vignettes
the
of
old
elderly couples discussing how they met and
what
how they ended up together and how
yeah,
long they've been together.
I thought for a long while those are real couples that were real. Those are completely fake.
Yep.
I thought for sure it's so easy to just find a couple. It's like it's not really a casting thing, but it is a casting thing to like find a couple, do a little bit of research, find a couple, end up with a couple that has like an interesting story, and they were on for a long time.
Yeah.
And get them to just talk. No, these are completely fake. Completely fake.
The one that really keys you into the fact that it's fake is I think it's the third one where the guy's like, yeah, and I was married to this woman and then you got divorced. And he's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. The one that was he was married to the woman he was there with. They got a divorce. He married like 3 other times, and then he saw her at a party, and then they got back together like 30 years later. Like,
and the whole time his wife right there is sitting there correcting him too.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like I can't even remember her name. It was Katie.
it did put a smile on my face when I saw it.
Yep.
Again, watched it so many times. When you watch it when you're a little bit older, maybe a little bit more critical, it changes everything.
Mhm.
Like when you're in a long-term relationship, whether you're just boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, or married for a long time, the way you look at this movie is completely different. You understand a lot of the nuance in this movie that you wouldn't necessarily understand if you just watched it when you're like, I watched it for the first time, I think it was 14. I think.
Yeah, and you'd have absolutely no frame of
I
reference because you've
didn't
never
watch it
really been
at
in a relationship
I
before.
I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't watch it when I think I watched it on VHS or even VHS probably.
Mhm.
Didn't watch it at the theater. Liked it cuz it's funny. I understood the humor even though I'm not really a New Yorker. It's very New
This is a
York
very quintessential New York film.
movie. Like we had a
Yeah.
few LA movies, like Collateral was very LA
LA.
movie. Die
Yeah.
Hard was a very LA movie. This one was a very New York movie. Very, very New York movie. I
Mhm.
know. Do we have any Chicago movie coming up? I don't think so.
Not.
The
I
closest one is
think
an
so.
Aurora movie with Wayne's World, but we
Yes,
have that in about 4 months or something like that.
which I'm very much looking forward to.
All right, so that is about it. I think we said everything there is to say about this movie. It's an hour and a half. You can say it's a typical rom-com where it starts off somewhere. We get a falling in love, breaking up, and redemption, which is the typical rom-com formula.
Mhm.
Um, but it kind of sets up, the whole genre. I think it's one of the first ones that actually has that particular
I think
set.
as it's set up, it's a very prototypical rom-com. It kind of set the standard of all of the real inherent tropes that are in every romantic comedy written since then. But before that's its actual full formula, I think this is the one that really nailed the formula of the
Yeah.
rom-com down.
Maybe there was a formula like that in other movies that I don't know. Like I know a lot about movies, but again, there's so much you can know.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that it's that formula and it had Meg Ryan that actually went on to do so many other movies in that
Yeah.
formula. It holds up as it holds up as a trope for romantic comedies or rom-coms,
Mhm.
especially 90s rom-coms. But
Oh,
it
most definitely.
went a little bit further into the late aughts or something like that when it kind of died off the whole genre.
Yeah, really,
Especially
because
this kind of trope kind of died off.
yeah, because if you go through really from romantic comedies through the early '90s to the late '90s, they were more focused on the romantic side, less on the comedy. Now, if you go into the odd, it's really more about the comedy.
Yeah.
Then the romance kind of plays a sub. It's like the romance is the driving factor in it, but the prevalent things is the comedy in the aughts for rom coms.
Yeah.
So
So now that we're done with When Harry Met Sally, which is a sort of a New Year's Eve movie because it basically ends up in a New Year's
because it
Eve
ends on New Year's
party.
Eve, yeah.
But we're in New Year's Day and it's a new year, but it's also a new month. So we wanted to do something special for this month because in about 2 weeks, it is your birthday, sir.
That's true.
And one of the movies you love, if not your favorite movie of all time,
It is my favorite movie.
Pulp Fiction. So we thought, in the tradition of the Real McCoy, we'll just have a full month of Tarantino movies. Now we're going to start with the original one that he directed, which is Reservoir Dogs. Then we're going to do Pulp Fiction. And then is it Hateful Eight? Did we decide it's Hateful Eight or something else? It's True Romance.
True Romance. I think it's True Romance.
And to end the month, it is True Romance, where he wrote but didn't direct.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I just don't remember. You know what?
It was either Django or Hateful Eight.
Oh, it's Django. It's Django
yeah.
Unchained. Django Unchained. So we'll have a full month of Tarantino. Little bit of early stuff, a little bit of later stuff, and some writing stuff. All that good stuff. My favorite is Hateful Eight. Not my favorite. Beta Fett in the chat says Hateful Eight is his favorite. We're not going to touch upon Hateful Eight. I'm looking at the list right now. It is Django Unchained.
Mm-hmm. And yes, we thought about doing Kill Bill, but Kill Bill would only be proper if you did both 1 and 2, and we didn't want to spend 2 weeks doing Kill Bill. So, and we couldn't do one podcast covering Kill Bill 1 and 2 at the same time because it's
4-hour podcast. 2 separate movies. Yeah, and the Pulp Fiction one is going to go a little. It's going to be a
very long podcast.
Yeah. So that is going to be January. It's going to be Tarantino month. At least some of the movies that we wanted, and we'll go on from there. I'm not going to spoil the next month, but
February is going to be
going to be very interesting. A few note of suggestions here. We said no Chicago movies. We've got a few suggestions here: Untouchables, Blues Brothers, Breakfast Club, and Home Alone. And basically all of John Hughes's movies is basically Chicago suburbia.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
And the only thing is
it can be Uncle Buck as well.
Yeah, we just don't have them on the list yet.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
Yeah, we just don't have them on the list. Oddly enough. We have tons of stuff lined up for you this year. We've got a few months that are specialty months, a few months that are every week is something different. We've got a few dark movies for you this year. We've got a few light-hearted movies this year. Popular ones, unpopular ones. Super, I hate that word, diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Like
there's a breadth of different films.
Yeah, we've got movies from all different eras, not only concerning 1989, which we were pretty much doing. We
covered a lot of the 80s.
Yeah, 89, like a lot of 89s lately. So we're gonna set that apart, and we're gonna have a few oldies but goldies, but a few newer ones. So the aughts, the teens, all that good stuff. So stay tuned, everybody. Share this video around. Share this channel around. We're pretty close to 100, so we can have a vanity plates for our link. So get cracking. So like, share, subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to do liking, if you don't want to do all that, just your view is good enough for us.
Yep. Always appreciated.
Oh, it is always appreciated. Before we finish, let's put up captions. If you want to contact me, my contacts are at Meffistoe on Twitter, at Meffistoe79 on Instagram, or you can email me, Meffistoe79@gmail.com. For now, we'll have a dedicated email set up for you for, I think, next week. That shouldn't be a big problem. We're going to dual stream this on Twitch as well. I'm not sure if starting next week or not. Probably yes. Just so if you are a Twitch viewer, you can catch us there as well. Don't worry about the chat. I have the chat set up so I can see both the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat as well. So don't worry about that. And until next week, go watch Reservoir Dogs
Dogs.
by Quentin Tarantino. Come back to us and we'll discuss it. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have an outro for us yet because there's a limit to what I can do. Until next week, from me, Mephisto, and Oh My Feelings, have a
Good night.
great 2022.
Take
And
care.
we'll see you next week. I said, I'll see you next week. There we go.